So this is a way to turn your iPhone or your Samsung into practically a professional camera. So these are the G series lenses for the iPhone. But the really sick thing about these lenses is they actually work on the Galaxy S23 Ultra and 24 Ultra as well. So for the past week or so, I've been out in the mountains putting these lenses through their paces, so let's break them down. So this is the full set of lenses, and I think you'll agree they are absolutely beautiful bits of hardware. They all connect using this kind of threaded design from the iPhone or Samsung case. You can see that this is the kind of case design here. This is the carbon fiber design. They also have leather and wood case variants. So literally just like this, you then just screw in the lens, nice and easy, and then that's applied to the phone. You're ready to shoot with it. In terms of lenses here, you can see that we have the Telephoto 2X, a Telephoto 240mm. This will actually bring your iPhone from roughly an 120mm lens to a 240mm, a fisheye lens, a 110-degree wide-angle lens, a long-range macro lens, a macro 10x lens, and a 1.33 times anamorphic lens. Something which definitely sets these lenses apart is the build quality and design. These are built like little tanks. So I just have a standard professional lens. This is a Sigma 2470 f2.8. This one's about $1,000 in terms of price, maybe about $1,200, something like that. This lens feels more premium than this lens. There's more metal used in the construction of this. This is essentially an entirely metal and glass design, and it literally feels almost better quality than some of my actual professional camera lenses. Absolutely insane. Certainly don't have to worry about kind of throwing them into bags. As long as you've got the lens caps on to obviously protect the optics, you're going to be good to go. So let's go through these lenses one by one. So this one is the 2X Telephoto, and I actually think it's one of my favorites of the bunch. Because it's a 2X, it sits on the main rear-facing sensor, so that 24mm. Basically, it makes it a 50mm equivalent, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. You're able to get beautiful compositions, and it's a super usable focal length. Like, I shoot 50 all the time. It also increases the iPhone's capability to capture images with a shallow depth of field in the background. You're going to get more subject isolation between the background and the foreground of your images, just due to the amount of lens compression available with this optic. So whilst that 48mm focal length is insanely useful and very, very versatile, sometimes you might not get the reach that you're actually going to be after on your phone. And that is where the 240mm Supertelephoto comes in. And that is this little lens here. You can see just how tiny this one is. It is, I would say, the same size as like an egg cup, around that type of thing. So this is the newest lens available of the G series set. And as you can see, it actually looks like a more traditional telephoto lens, like how you would actually kind of have that on a professional camera. So in the UK this time, and one of the very rare snowy days, but a perfect opportunity to test the telephoto, this time on the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. You can see what it looks like right here, that super telephoto. And of course, the focal lengths on the S24 Ultra, we've got that 5x optical lens. This is going to turn that into a 10x optical lens. And I'm very interested to also check how it's going to look when we actually punch in, because you have that option for a 10x digital crop. So that should actually make a kind of effective focal range of 480mm. So we're going to have to test that out. So you can see just how far this reach is. You can see in the background over here in the distance. So we're going to start off with the 1x facing lens. We're going to take a quick shot here. Let's now zoom into the 3x optical lens. Take another little shot there. Then we'll go to the 5x and then the 10x digital crop. This should be a 240mm focal length. So now we've applied the lens, as you can see, to the telephoto camera on the S24 Ultra. And we're going to do the same thing here. So we'll take a 5x shot. And again, because of the lens design on the S24 Ultra, we can actually take a 10x shot just like that. I think actually sticking these side by side is the kind of best illustration of this. You can see how much detail we're actually getting in this photo. So this is the 10x digital crop of the 240mm optical lens on the left, and then I've zoomed to the same level on the right, but this is of course with no lens attached. You can just see how much more detail with the lens we're able to do. This one's even further zoomed in, as you can see, and the difference is just so apparent. An area which I've been really impressed with the Supertelephoto has actually been in video. So you can see here that because of the super level of compression that we're getting, that 240mm reach, the footage is just absolutely beautiful. And again, of course, having an option on the S24 Ultra to actually crop into the 10x digital crop of that lens, you are just getting stunning images at a compression level that you're not quite able to normally get on a smartphone without this type of piece of kit. The video really exceeded my expectations. Where I actually found some of the best performance on this lens is using a subject and getting just a level of subject isolation with shallow depth of field that is just almost like not possible on a standard smartphone camera without this level of optics. You can see that this image here, like look at the separation level that you are getting on this photo. It is absolutely beautiful and essentially looks like it was taken with something much more expensive, a dedicated camera system to achieve that level of bokeh. You can actually also purchase macro attachments for this lens, which just connect using the magnetic thread designs, which we will talk about later. In terms of the macro performance, we will visit this when we talk about macro a little bit later on in the video. So moving on to some slightly different lenses, this one is the Fisheye. Say what you will about Fisheye, it's obviously not the most useful focal length. What I mean by that is you're obviously not going to be using it in a ton of videos, or like I would never deliver any client work with any fisheye lenses in it normally unless you're going for a very specific type of look, except they are a lot of fun. Like you are able to get some creative photos with a fisheye lens. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to test this out, show you kind of what you can do with a fisheye lens. So I'm going to set a self timer on the Reflex app. That's set at 10 seconds. I'm going to press take. And then we will literally leave the phone over there. Very snowy phone aside. And yeah, here are the few of the fisheye samples. And I think you'll kind of agree, it's just such a unique, fun angle. Even just flipping the phone around and taking selfies with it, able to show your point of view like these ones, just super fun. I absolutely love them. Of course, the downside is that with a fisheye lens comes a lot of distortion. You are not going to be able to get away from the kind of distortion of this lens. And just because also that's the way fisheye is intended. Things in the center of the frame are supposed to look almost like normal, and then the edge of the frame is always intentionally distorted. However, if you're looking for a wide angle look without the distortion, you might want to check out the wide angle 110 degrees lens attachment. The real advantage for this one is that on older devices, if you're not running an iPhone 16 Pro, the ultra wide is still a 12 megapixel sensor. And of course, the real advantage of that is by shooting on the main rear facing sensor, that 1x lens, you're able to still achieve images with a 48 megapixel sensor, a much higher quality sensor, but achieve a much wider field of view. And then if you compare this to the ultra wide camera on something like the iPhone 16 Pro, where it does have a 48 megapixel ultra wide sensor, the main advantage of this one is that you're going to get significantly less distortion that you might get on the ultra wide lens. I think it's worth noting here that you can actually see the quality increase as well, even on the iPhone 16 Pro with the 48 megapixel ultra wide. Look at the difference here between the left and the right images here. The ultra wide, the 110 degree wide angle with the reflex lens, significantly higher quality and better image quality. So now on to macro lenses, and Reflex have two dedicated macro lenses available. This is the Macro 10x, which is going to give you essentially 10 times magnification on whatever you're looking at, and you are able to get some super creative, really interesting shots using this beautiful little macro lens. So the 10x macro really is completely crazy. So it's on here right now. I'm going to show you just how close you have to get to actually get a shot here. You can see that is literally how close I am. So I'm taking a shot right there, and quite literally that is how close I am. It is completely wild how close you can get with this thing, and just the level of macro capability. The other dedicated lens they have is a long-range macro 10x. This one's connected to the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra right now. And what this is actually going to allow you to do is, as you can see with this lens here, the standard 10x, you're having to get very, very close to the subject. With the long range, you're actually able to stay much further away and you get a better lens compression than you would do otherwise with the standard 10x. So I'm going to show you these macro shots and then we will put them all side by side so you can actually see the differences. This first one, almost like the Control, just the standard macro lens on the iPhone, no reflex lens attached. This one is the long range macro. Because you're able to actually step away from your subject, you get much more lens compression. This actually looks far more like a professional macro lens, maybe on 100mm, that type of focal range. This one is the macro 10x that we talked about earlier. You can see just the level of bokeh mainly. You're having to get super, super close here, but it does give you a ton of kind of like focus on the image that you're actually photographing, but probably not the best lens for things like insect photography or anything that's going to move away from you, because you really do almost have to get right next to the subject. And then pretty much the opposite, really stepping away from your subject here. This is the 240mm telephoto with the 300mm macro attachment. This one probably taken at least a foot away from the subject itself. If you were doing something like insect photography, this would be the perfect lens for it. And here, just because it's interesting, all of these images side by side. So obviously top left, the iPhone's Control image, just the standard macro, no reflex lens. I think you can probably agree that all of the macro shots from the reflex lenses look significantly more professional than the standard iPhone camera, mainly just due to the level of compression and also the depth of field. Particularly, I think the long range macro really stands out to me. This looks like almost like a professional macro image that you would get with a much more professional macro lens. So then finally, we have a lens that is more designed for video production than standard photos, and this is an anamorphic lens. So this is a 1.33x anamorphic lens, and if we come right up to the camera here, you can actually see that you're able to get kind of anamorphic characteristic lens flares. Certainly a super interesting one for iPhone filmmakers if you're into that type of thing. Certain apps will allow you to de-squeeze the footage, so you're able to get like a true representation of that 1.33x footage. Due to the way the lens design works, it's really, really interesting. Once you actually mount the lens, you're able to rotate it using this rotating design, and that allows you to control those lens flares. So you are actually able to, with this lens, get these flares vertically as well as horizontal if you're looking for that style and effect. So you probably can't see this on the screen right here, but basically this is the anamorphic lens on the S24 Ultra. And on the S24 Ultra's Pro video mode, there's actually a way to natively de-squeeze the footage. So this is de-squeezing from a 1.33x anamorphic shot to the shot that looks like this. It will just hopefully give you an idea of the type of footage and the style with the kind of native black bars you're able to get using this lens. And then of course I will also show you how those lens characteristics look, the absolute classic anamorphic look lens flares, because this lens is genuinely absolutely beautiful. And as you can see, it is also a bit of a tank on there right now. Absolutely huge, gorgeous piece of glass. So finally, something I want to talk about is called the Reemag system for these lenses. So I have a filter adapter here, as you can see, and what I'm going to do is literally attach that to the front using the magnetic design. That is the Reemag system in action. And then what we're able to do is take a filter. So this is a variable ND filter, which if you don't know, will allow you to take far more professional video by using proper manual controls. And what we're able to do, again, using this Reemag system, is just go like that. That is the easiest way I've ever seen a filter be applied to the iPhone. Like, it is a beautiful system and it works fully across the lenses using the magnetic Reemag design. You might need a lens adapter like you are being able to see here, but it is literally as quick as that. The one I have here is a variable ND. You can see that if you slide this around, it will change the amount of light coming into that image. You also have polarizing filters, and I actually found that very, very useful when I was in France shooting in the snow I was able to shoot just with the CPL, reduce the amount of glare coming into the lenses. And I also have mist filters available as well. All are Reemag compatible. And if you are shooting higher quality photos and video using your iPhone, this is just an absolute game changer. And so there we have it. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments about these lenses. I would love to know whether you guys, whether you're on Android or on iOS, have actually ever dabbled with shooting with a more professional lens attachment on your phone. Let me know with a comment down below. There will also be a link to, of course, all of the reflex lenses down there as well. Thank you so much for watching.